You never know what's going to work or how it's going to work. Either way, it's free to post and it costs you nothing. It's like, what's the negative to putting yourself out there? At the end of the day, you post, you're going to get better at it, and you're building a brand digitally, right? And at some point in time along your journey, that's going to pay dividends. It might not pay dividends today. My dad taught me when I growing up is like, hey, listen, not a negative thing comes up about another contractor inside of the home. If a homeowner sits there and they point out the contractor that they're thinking about doing business with, and I know that contractor is not a good contractor, I cannot say anything about that person because that's our values, our moral compass, and that's the way that we operate. There's been a lot of great conversations that I've had around people negatively slashing my content online. I could sit there and be like, man, these people hate me. Or I could sit there and be like, that was a productive conversation. I think it was the biggest political assassination since Martin Luther King. And I felt, and this is my opinion on it, but I felt like the reason why he made so much of a connection was because of being able to put out the good, the bad, the ugly, the conversations all together on social media platforms. Josh is the type of person, when someone comes up to me and says, I can't stand Best Damn Roofer, I'm like, why do you say that? Like, I'll defend Josh because I know him as a person. Yeah, I don't do the whole scheduling my content out for 3 weeks. I wish I could get onto something like that, but for me, it's something about doing it in the moment. Doing it in a moment, having it coming from me, I just think it comes out a different way.
I do not remember the last 10 reels I watched, and I hope so you don't remember as well. So you are taking that chance of getting those views and getting that recognition just because you think that you have to chase perfection.
Going back to that point, it's like, who's viewing that content? If I get 5,000 people to view the content, or even if it's 500, right? This is an interesting point to make. There's been a couple videos that I made for Luminale that only got 5,000 views, right? But they generated 70 to 100 leads off of those videos. 5,000 views, 70 to 100 leads. And then there's been some videos that I've done. The one that got 1.6 million, it didn't generate any leads, right? But it got me 3,000 followers. So on Facebook, and that's what I'm trying to get at. You never know what's going to work or how it's going to work. Either way, it's free to post and it costs you nothing. It's like, what's the negative to putting yourself out there? At the end of the day, you post, you're going to get better at it, and you're building a brand digitally, right? And at some point in time along your journey, that's going to pay dividends. It might not pay dividends today, but a year from now, when you're better on camera, when you've done it 60 times, or 360 times if you're posting every day, right, pays dividends. And you just have to understand, like, it's not about what you're doing today, it's what it's going to look like 5 years from now. And you got to improve, and it can't be selfish either. It can't be selfish content. There's times where I sit there and I have to pull myself back and say, okay, listen, you created this many pieces of content for yourself. You did this for your brands and everything else. Like, you got to get back more to, like, you have to create other videos that are tying everything back into your original purpose of servicing your following. So I think that's another thing that you got to manage.
Okay, and what exactly is selfish content and how do you avoid it? Like, what are the things you tell yourself, or what are the things you do to figure out that this content is selfish or not?
Like I said, I represent these different brands. There'll be some times where I'm sitting there, I'm posting 5 videos straight about the different brands that I represent, and that's great and all. And these people still interact with them. They're still great videos, but also I got to service my audience. I have to sit there and provide value. So I need to sit there and make a video about Drip Edge and educating the people that are watching my content to learn about their pitches and stuff. I have to sit there and provide content outside of those 5 videos. So if I made 5 videos straight where I'm kind of going through just product promotion, I got to post more videos that will sit there and service my audience and what they're there to watch me for, whether it's drone videos or whatever the case is. And sometimes those two types of content can coexist together. But at the end of the day, I just got off the phone with a guy yesterday and he's like, dude, I wish I could fly drones like you. And every single time that I see one of your drone videos, I get excited about it. And there was a time where I thought about completely getting away from that altogether. But it's just like you have those individual conversations with people where people are like, man, I love what you do with the drone, or I love your on-site videos that you do. So you got to tie that back into your content. And once again, there's certain contents that you can make uh, that promotes yourself or promotes our other brand or promotes your
Mm.
services, right? But also you have to make content that's fun, that's just you having fun on camera, that there's no money incentive behind, that there's nothing that you're getting out of it, but you're just posting because it's something that connects with people authentically.
Amazing. Just a few minutes back, you talked about busting people, and I am pretty much active on Facebook because most of the roofing contractors who engage with me, they are active on Facebook as well. And what I have noticed, you might disagree with me on this. 80% of the roofing contractors or roofing company owners, they are creating content that is just busting other people or other contractors instead of educating your people. What they are doing is that they are targeting people, they are marking their mistakes, and the groups are filled with content where there is nothing like productivity or educational content. Everyone is just trying to pull each other's leg, and they are just like, even if you go there or if I go there, I am not even a roofing contractor. I post a picture of a roof, I will have 100 or 200 comments. Everyone will be trying to point out my mistake in that roof instead
Mhm.
of supporting me, instead of guiding me, instead of educating me. What has happened to these people? Or do you feel that this is a kind of selfish content as well? Or do you feel that roofing industry is evolving overall, and maybe in the next coming years, because this is a blue collar profession, so we will have more professional kind of content and more professional people that will not create this selfish content just to bust others.
My personal perspective on it, I understand why the people that do that create that type of content. They view themselves more as a journalist uh, than a content creator. I think Dimitri gets a lot of unwanted kind of hate towards him.
Mm,
The way I look at him is that he is a journalist. He's sitting there putting out content that he's genuinely interested in, and he feels like he's servicing homeowners, other contractors, and protecting people by
mm,
sitting there and exposing these people that are doing things in a negative way. Right now, some people could hate him for that. For me, I'm kind of neutral on it. That's Dimitri's thing, and that's what he does. And he also has other content outside of that too. Like he promotes his own products, and I think he does a great job of creating content. But also for me, that's not my lane at all. My dad taught me when I growing up is like, hey, listen, you don't not a negative thing comes up about another contractor inside of the home. If a homeowner sits there and they point out a contractor that they're thinking about doing business with, and I know that contractor is not a good contractor, I cannot say anything about that person because that's our values, our moral compass, and that's the way that we operate. You never say anything bad about someone else, right? Now, personally, like if I sit there and I have a problem and it's a private conversation, I can bring it up to that person. But at the end of the day, my whole thing is to focus on my mission and what I have going on and let everyone else do the same. I'm not going to sit there and I might sit there and say, hey, that guy's full of crap, but I keep that opinion to myself. But going back to what was the second part of that question there?
second part of the question was that, do you feel that roofing industry is evolving right now because it is a blue collar professional, and now it is coming into this spotlight because of AI and everything, and people are more getting into this industry? So in the coming years we will have more professionals who will know the way of communication, and who will know that how to stay in your limits and be focused on your mission instead of pulling
Okay.
each other's leg.
Maybe there is some hidden cynicism in that, and like,
Mm,
hey, I'm going to sit here and knock this guy off of the mountain that he's on. I'll push him off and watch him fall down.
mm,
But really, I just think it's people grabbing for content and grabbing for views and clicks. The way that I view it is I do things my way. Someone else might do things another way. Either way, they think what they think is doing it the right way, and I think it's different. But my whole thing is you can't sit there and pay attention to what the peanut gallery is saying about you the other day. When you're going on Facebook and TikTok and any of these other platforms, you're posting content and you got to sit there and separate yourself from the comment section. You can't sit there and put any value on what they're saying because most of the time people are just talking trash. It's no different than being in a barber shop. Actually, the guy who posted my content on the Luminale TikTok,
Hmm.
he's one of the founding members' sons of Luminale,
Hmm.
and he gets so mad when people give negative feedback or negative comments on his post. And I just told him,
Hmm.
I said, hey, you got to sit there and take yourself out of it. Objectively, there's been a lot of great conversations that I've had around people negatively slashing my content online. One of the ones that I can remember, this was about 5 or 6 years ago. I
Hmm.
posted a video about wrapping the drip edge around the fascia board to get a cleaner look.
Hmm.
That's great if there are no gutters on the house, but if the gutters are ever to be replaced or if new gutters are installed, you have to clip where the two sections come together. You have to clip
Yes.
the drip edge in order for the gutters to be able to slide up underneath. And so many people, when I posted that video, asked me, you're messing up every gutter guy in town. That's not how it's properly installed. Video ended up getting 150,000 views. What I got from it, I could sit there and be like, man, these people hate me. Or I could sit there and be like, that was a productive conversation. I learned that if gutters are being installed or replaced, it's important to know that that gutter guy's going to have to clip that section. And so I learned and move on. But people put too much weight in other people's opinions. At the end of the day, I post for me and the
Hmm.
content that I put out. I do it for me and I don't really care what other people think about it. Now, granted, I'll sit there and I'll have conversations and I'll debate back and forth. And sometimes I'll even talk a little bit of trash too. But at the end of the day, I think that's the fun part about social media. And the reactions are the reactions. And a lot of times you just got to understand those negative comments are only going to get you more views and get you to more people. So you
I think
can't
there is a
put
reason why they are named reactions, not responses, because they are just reactions. They are not responses. People don't think what they are doing.
the thing is, no one would really say that to you in person. I guarantee you,
Yes.
like you could take my top haters on Facebook or Instagram, which there's very few of them, but they're
Hmm.
there. But guarantee you, if I saw those people at an expo or in person, we would have a good conversation. I would probably buy them a drink or dinner. And so that's the reality of the situation is when you're dealing with these social platforms, these marketplace of ideas, you got these people that literally sit there and spend all day just sitting there tearing people down on social media. And that's just a part of their digital presence. Like that's their purpose on that platform. There's some people I go to and I'll sit there and I'll go back because you can see all the comments someone posts. And so if someone puts a negative comment, I'll click on the profile and I'll see their last 10 comments, and every single one of those comments are negative. And I'm just like, yep, that's a negative person. Keep it moving. On to the next one. But you can't put in that much weight into what other people think because at the end of the day, none of it really matters. And that's why I keep going back to is like everything is it's important to us, but it's
Hmm.
in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of irrelevant. We just build our own little image, our own little
Hmm.
brand representation the way that we want to, and we have our community, and that's what it matters to. Anything outside of it is irrelevant. So yeah, that's my
Okay.
thoughts on
And
that one.
thank you. And these are like my kind of thoughts too. I relate to this because what I have perceived is that maybe the other person is a journalist, just like you said, and they are attracting other journalists, like the army of people that they want to build, like the 5,000 people that they want to have are just journalists. They are not content creators, or maybe someone else is a content creator and he is attracting more content creators. So these two are on totally different paths. And speaking of
Completely different
this,
levels.
yes, and speaking of this, Andrew, I have another thing in my mind, and I do not want any unwanted hatred for this, and I'm sure you don't want as well. A few months back, something happened. Charlie Kirk was murdered, and like I loved him. I loved his views, and I love people like him, like Andrew Tate, Charlie Kirk, and like people who tell us that the reality of the society and how things are going in the background.
Mhm.
But when that event happened, someone just sent me a message. Like it was AM at night for me, 3 at night. and I got two messages just because someone was a mutual friend of mine, and I did not even know what has happened because of course we have a time difference, and I was sleeping at that time, and it was night for me. And all of a sudden I just opened my Facebook, and I am looking at hundreds and hundreds of posts that are just being made exactly like you said, that people are gaining views out of this event. And maybe it was their genuine emotion, I respect that. But 2 or 3 or 4 days later, I sat down and I analyzed that this cult behavior, that I will say, can easily collapse anyone. And then I asked myself a question, that is this the behavior that business owners should have? Like, we are business owners, we deal with people, we have our teams. We are supposed to be calm and composed in our responses in such matters. And what I
Hmm.
saw at that time was a load of emotions overthrowing, and some people even like threatened me that they will post against me just because that person is my mutual friend. And of course, I unfriended him. But
Hmm.
then later on, when I like, even if we leave this event, I see a lot of times the responses that the roofing community or the roofing industry has are based on truly emotions, not on the like calmness or the wisdom that you should have as a business owner. Then, what I did after this event, after 2 or 3 weeks, I represented my views in front of 2 or 3 people in the industry that are be like that are legends, I would say. Like, they have been in the game for like 40 or 30 years or even 50 years. I had a conversation with them, and I told them that this is what I feel. And to my surprise, they said the same thing, and they did not even post about it. However, they said that this isn't something that should be happening because we love Charlie Kirk. We love everyone like this. But is that the kind of response that we should give as business owners? And is that the kind of message that we should be passing out? Because it scares other people that even if you don't, like, if I have a picture with you, Andrew, and
Hmm.
maybe someone 3 or 4 months later, they just tell you that if you have a picture with this guy, so you are like this as well. But in reality, that is not the case. So that
Hmm.
creates too much scarcity in the industry. What do you think about that?
So first of all, I'm still stuck on Charlie Kirk.
Mhm.
The amount of weight, and honestly, I didn't follow him super closely either.
Yes,
He
exactly.
was at one of my biggest regrets is that
Mhm.
I was at When the Storm,
Mhm.
and I had some issues with getting a rental vehicle, and I was going to drive back to Memphis to make my son's game, and all of a sudden I couldn't find a rental, and so I had to fly
Mhm.
back. He spoke at When the Storm, and I stayed outside to sit there and figure out my travel situation. I didn't get to see Charlie Kirk speak, but the weight that that man carried was almost a soul of the youth of America. And I think why it made such a splash that it
Mhm.
did was because he represented a whole entire generation. It is the thing was, it wasn't like when he was assassinated, it was like Alex Jones being assassinated, or someone like that. They assassinated the most moderate voice on the right. I think it was the biggest political assassination since Martin Luther King, and I felt and this is my opinion on it, but I felt like the reason why he made so much of a connection was because of being able to put out the good, the bad, the ugly, the conversations all together on social media platforms. And if you follow Charlie, or if you follow Joe Rogan, or any of these people that are highly influential in our society, you know them as a person. When you listen to Joe Rogan talk for 3 hours, you know Joe Rogan as a person. And I think the reason why it carried so much weight with me and with other people is because we know those people so well. I felt like I knew Charlie to a certain extent, and then he's assassinated, and that weight and that impact happened. But going back to the power of social media and the power of putting your ideas and your thoughts out there for everyone to judge, whether they're criticizing you, whether you're loved,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, being able to put those ideas out there allow people to get to know you more as a person. And I don't think anyone should be criticized for the opinions that they have.
Mhm.
There were some stupid people that posted a lot of stupid things after he was assassinated. And I go back and forth on whether they should be reprimanded or not, because in America, you have freedom of speech. But there's something about when someone's so young with 2 kids. It's just taking out for just a difference in opinion. That's the tough part I had to swallow. What lets you know that he was a good person of character is
Mhm.
you had his enemies, you had his political enemies that he debated with come out and defend him as a person. And they came out on their streams and they put videos out. You had Nick Fuentes, um, a couple people that I don't follow too closely on the Democratic side, with left-leaning views came out and said that he was an outstanding person, although that they were adversaries. They respected Charlie as a person, and it was wrong that he was assassinated. That's how you know the weight that he had on society. And as far as having political views, I don't think that you shouldn't put your opinions out there. If it's
Mhm.
authentically you, if it's authentically a part of you, then go ahead and put your political opinions out there, but also recognize that, I mean, there's been a couple people that leaned heavily. They went from generating social media content for roofing to now everything's a political post. And it's just like, I don't see where they're going with that. But I do know when you post about politics, you do get views, you
Difference
do
of
get the
opinion. Yes.
yeah, you do get the views, you do get the interaction, the engagement, the social media bots to a certain extent will
Mhm.
sit there and lash on to political posts, and that grows your following. And I guess that's achieving your goal. But for me, it's like my main messaging, my lane, going back to it, is what I do. And it's not outside of that. So if it's relevant to the industry or if it's something that weighed heavy on me, like I posted about Charlie Kirk because it was just the weight of sitting there. He was 1 year older than me when he was assassinated. 2 kids, wife, has everything going for him. And I thought he was extremely moderate for a conservative. And I couldn't believe that he was assassinated. It was pure disbelief. So I posted about it. And I simply said, this man was assassinated for a difference in opinions. And that's
Mhm.
incredibly sad. I think that's something that you can recognize. Do I think you lean into it? I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's proper. Also, some people do, and it's a part of their thing. Someone who's made a great brand off of it, and someone who has stuck to their guns is Joshua Biggard, which Lord Big Time. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with him? The best damn roofer.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes. So Josh, he's been canceled probably 3 or 4 different times,
Mhm.
and he's stuck to his gun. And he's one of the most genuinely nice people you'll ever meet in person. But once again, you get people that love him, and then you get people that hate him. Josh is the type of person when someone comes up to me and says I can't stand Best Damn Roofer, I'm like, what? Why do you say that? Like I'll defend Josh because I know him as a person and I know how good of a guy and how much shine he gives to other people, I'll go to war for Josh. But that's because, once again, you see the person. There's two different sides to people. A lot of what Josh does is satire, and then you got the person behind that. And Josh is an amazing person, good friend, and but someone who has stuck to his guns on his political beliefs and going after the left. I mean, I think he's been on InfoWars 2 or 3 different times. But guess what? It shows if you're authentically you and you stick to your guns, even if the whole world tries to cancel you, there's still a group and a community that will
Yes.
support you and back you, you know?
Yes.
And that will be there for you. And Josh is one of those people I like and comment.
Mhm.
Anytime I see one of his posts, I like and comment on it because, like, at the end of the day, I know the person behind the brand. I support the brand. I respect it. And he's stuck to his guns and made his own way. And so that's my thoughts on it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it's something that should be at the forefront of what you do, especially if you're in a position like me where you're doing business with people. I had a lady the other day, we got on the Charlie Kirk at her job, and I
Mhm.
found out on the spot that she was a left-leaning individual. And she
Mhm.
says, I can't stand Charlie Kirk. And I said, well, what makes you say that? And she's like, well, I have a trans. I don't want to get into it too much, but she had a daughter that
I get
LGBTQ.
it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, she voiced her side of it, and I'm like, yeah, I completely understand. And then we got into the whole, I don't know if you follow Candace too much,
Mhm.
but I said, yeah, well, he actually was changing his position on certain stances when it comes to the war and genocide in Palestine. There's more to that story than what you're just seeing on the news, and we had a
Yes.
good, fruitful conversation to it. And so that's the thing. You got to be willing to talk to people and have conversations and see the other aisle, I guess you would say, and kind of understand people together. But at the end of the day, when it comes to it, if it's a part of what you do, great. If not, a wise man once told me that you never speak about politics, religion, and another man's wife at the dinner table. Politics, religion, and another man's wife. I'll never forget when I was told that,
That's how
and
I'm gonna remember
I
this
keep
for
it
my
true.
rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't talk about religion, politics, and another man's wife at the dinner table. And yeah, so that's my thought process on it. That's the way I kind of keep it. And same thing. I don't sit there and I don't go out bashing or
Mm,
talking negative about other people. There's no room for me on that. I understand the people that do go after the people that expose the fake
mm.
gurus and everything else. And there's certain situations that I'm like, yep, that's 100% warranted. I'm glad that came out. But for me personally, it's not my lane.
Okay, thank you. And that's exactly what my point is as well, because I feel that a lot of times we make emotional decisions and we do not know what we are talking about. And this happens a lot of time. And since if we look at this particular event, like I was watching some reels the other day where they are saying that Charlie Kirk got murdered and his wife is, I do not know if that is true or not, but they were blaming his wife and like exposing her connections with other countries and their intelligence agencies and things like that. So like if you look at that event after 2 months now and you look at your response, the emotional response that you gave, that over emotional response, I would say, because I respected, I still remember Charlie's videos where he was in debate with the people who were saying that we shouldn't get pregnant, and he was totally bashing them out with logical arguments. I still remember all these conversations of him. But I made a post or two or three posts about him, I remember, but nowhere I tried to be gaining views from that, or that was just my random thought that I posted online.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, we should respect the difference of opinion in others. And that is eventually makes us a business owner because we have to deal with different kind of people, just like you met that lady as well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you can have the conversations too. I'm
Mhm,
not afraid of having debates in the comments section or even in person. Like if anyone ever wants to have a conversation, I'm open to having a conversation. And most of the time, I'll see their side and voice my opinions on my points of views.
mhm,
But at the end of the day, behind every brand, there's a person. And I think the more you show that person off and
mhm,
show those, put your individual thought processes out there and show that person, the more you're going to resonate with audiences altogether. They might not agree with you on everything, but you know, at the end of the day, we're all people and there's people behind a brand. And if you sit there and make a political post, it's not that big of a deal. But also, like for me, I look at it as I'm not an expert in that area. I'm
mhm.
very knowledgeable. I watch a lot of stuff on it. Is it a conspiracy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated after he turned away $250 million to Turning Point USA 3 days before he was shot? Yes, that's technically still a conspiracy. And whether I believe that's a lot of money to turn down, and there's definitely a possibility that he was assassinated for political reasons, that's my individual view, and I don't necessarily need to share that with everyone else. But if someone wants to sit there and have a private conversation about it, I would talk about it all day, you know? Like that's that's it. But I'm not going to
Yes,
sit there and put it out. It's just not my lane to sit there and be declare myself an expert on it. I'm not a political commentator. I'm a roofer,
yes,
and
yes,
that's where I
yes.
stay.
Yes, and you are right
Yeah.
about it as well. And I feel so that this is the way we should be creating content. And if anyone is watching this video and they are trying to become a content creator, then this is way forward. Let's just say I watch this podcast or I listen to this conversation on Spotify or anywhere, and now I am all pumped up about creating content. And I have a newly created roofing company. I got my license a few months back, and now I have just created my company and I want to show up to local contractors or local homeowners as well. How much money should I have in my pocket, and what kind of gadgets and tools do I need to create some professional level content?
Well, I think, especially if you're starting out,
Hmm,
being able to shoot off of your all I do on a day-to-day basis, I use a phone to
hmm,
capture content and I use my drone. and that's it. And so I keep it very basic. I'm a big fan of KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid, and just document around the experience that you're providing. That's one thing that I do every single day is provide a certain level of experience for my clients,
Hmm.
and that's what's made me in my market
Hmm.
the guy to go to when it comes to roofing. And honestly, there's people that call Masters Roofing because they see my videos and they get set up with another sales guy, and they said, "Well, I didn't get this or I didn't get that my neighbor talked about." But it was still an overall great experience. I just heard about the drone videos that were sent to my text messages,
Hmm.
keeping me updated on my process. So there's stuff that's unique to me as a roofing salesman in the experience that I provide, but it's all about that, which is the experience you provide is what people will do business with you for. And so therefore, if you put all your effort and all your time into making that experience the best it possibly can be, and then you sit there and document around it, people are going to give you a phone call, you know?
And is that something you can do under $5,000, like having a drone and the phone and maybe
Yeah,
a basic level microphone as well?
Yeah, basic level microphone and the tools and technology that are out there
Mm.
anymore. Like if you struggle with writing scripts, you can sit there and take an idea and put it into ChatGPT, and it's going to spit out something that you can reference. Now, my whole thing with that is like you also don't want to be a talking head either. You want to sit
Mm.
there and be able to make it your own. So if you have an idea and you put it out there, sit there and absorb it and say, is this authentically me before you execute it?
Mm.
But also you have to be able to sit there and utilize it and do it on a budget because I can tell you this much, when you're spending a good bit of money on you know producing videos, sure it might work if you're running sponsored ads around it, but if you're spending $20,000 to get these high production videos and there's no course of action after those videos are produced and you're just posting it, chances are those videos are going to get 1 to 2 thousand views, and then you're not going to get any
Yes.
business off of it. And that's a quick way to
Yes.
sign up for going out of business. So I think it's a combination of the two. I just recently started working with a videographer that I really like.
Mm.
And I'll pay him to come in and he'll do a couple videos, but I
Mm.
add it to what I already got going on. So I'll take those high production videos and it's once every so often I'll throw one of those in there when I have a really good idea or an idea I want to execute at a high level. I'll call Devin, have him come into town, shoot the videos, and I add it to what I already have going on, which are the videos I produce each and every day. So, and I'm very strategic and I don't do it every week. I do it whenever I have a group of ideas that I want to execute at a high level. I'll sit there and have 4 or 5 videos. I
Mm.
have Devin fly in. We'll shoot those high end videos, and that's another thing that I'm adding to what I already have going on. But you
Mm.
have to be able to create content yourself and generate it yourself because if you do it yourself, it's free.
Mm.
It doesn't cost you anything. If
Mm.
you have someone else do it for you, it can be a pretty penny.
Okay, I'm curious about it, Andrew. That how are you handling the pre-production and the post-production right now? Because you are at a stage that a lot of people aspire to be at, and you have definitely got other things to handle as well. So how do you schedule or plan your content? And then what are the things that you do by yourself in both pre-production and post-production? So how is the scheduling and the planning, and what is the process of your pre-production and post-production of your content?
So I do editing myself. So
Mm-hmm.
pre-production, like sometimes I'll come in, I have a journal that I write in, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just write out different ideas. And there's some ideas that I'll sit on for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just kind of flip back to and go back to and say, hey, I need to do a video on this, or I need to construct it a certain way. There's certain ideas that I have that are really good, and I'll sit on it for a while and I'll plan it out. But those ideas are very few and far between. Most of the time, when I'm cutting content, I literally go out to the job site and say, what do I want to talk about today? And over the course of 15 to 20 takes, I'll get what I want. My videographer, the new guy I'm working with,
Mm-hmm.
he works with a lot of rappers, like,
Okay.
a lot of music industry guys. And
Mm-hmm.
he says, what you do is no different than being in a booth, recording a rap song. He's like, you have an idea or premise that you go at it with. And he's like, you refine it. You refine the verses of what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and you get an end product that you want at the very end. But he said it's funny to watch you kind of go through the different takes. I usually do at least 10 to 15 takes at least for each video, but it's right off the top of my head and
Mhm.
I'll work through it and get to what I want. That's the way I currently think about it. And I think when it's authentic and it's not rehearsed and there's no planning behind it, it comes through. Like I think people see it to a certain level that I'm not planning it and it's not super thought out, and I think that's a little bit more relatable and they kind of see their self in that content, Not that I'm again sitting there writing
Mhm.
things out and taking time to sit there and make sure it's perfect. Like I got a few videos that once again, I'm gonna have Devin, he flies in from Miami. He comes in from Miami and we'll spend a whole entire day at one location and I'll
Mhm.
do 5 different videos and I will have all those planned out. But for the most part, I sit there and my pre-production is just getting out to a job site and say, hey, what's unique about this house? What can I
Mhm.
talk about that people could learn from, whether it's another roofing contractor or homeowner? And let's go ahead and start working on these videos and getting them cut. Sometimes it'll be 2 to 3 videos. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's, 6 different videos. It's just, and, it's over the course of 2 to 3 hours, but that's what works for me. Some people like sitting there and thinking about what they're going to say. For me, it just muddies the water. The less that there is and the more I can just flow into what I'm doing. I've done it enough times now to where whenever I speak, it's usually pretty well set up. But I think that comes from experience in cutting the content. And then post production, I do all the editing myself for the most part.
Mhm.
Even Devin, the videographer,
Yeah.
he'll sit there and send me some stuff. He'll do the color grading and everything, and he'll say, "Hey, man, I think you're better at doing this part of it. Like, do your thing. Cut it up how you want to. Here's the video in its entirety, and just do what you want to do with it." That's the most joy that I have in my job. Is like I love selling roofs, but I sell the roofs to produce the content afterwards.
And
Like
when do
I
you
like
post these videos? Like all together or just one by one every single day?
one by one every single day. Yeah, I don't do the whole scheduling my content out for 3 weeks. I wish
Uh-huh.
I could get onto something like that, but for me, it's something about doing it in the moment. Doing it in the moment, having it coming from me, I just think it comes out a different way.
Yes.
Trust me, it's the advisors that I have in my life that
Mhm.
are extremely trusted and extremely successful at what they do. They advise me against it, like, hey, get on a schedule and you'll have so much more time to yourself. And I've thought about it, but it's just old habits kind of die hard. 2026 coming up. There's a few things I would like to try a little bit differently, but
Mhm.
right now I stick what got me to the dance,
Mhm.
and that's doing it the way that I do it. But there's a few things I'm going to experience with in the upcoming year.
Cool. And my personal recommendation to you, Andrew, is that do not change the things that have made you who you are today. Because scheduling content, I don't think so that's gonna work for you. Because in the moment, you have your thoughts, you have your ideas that are fresh, and you can write them. And this is what has been giving you views and giving you recognition. So why would you change that? I think you should multiply on that. So do you have any gadget recommendations for someone who is getting into content creation, like the drone they can get in budget, the microphone and the camera, or a smartphone if they don't have any good quality iPhone? Or like what kind of gadgets you use and what are your recommendations? Because of course I'm feeling you have tried and tested different kind of gadgets.
DJI products are absolutely amazing. And I know that the United States has been talking about banning their products, but I
Mhm.
don't know why they're so darn good. And I hope that they don't get banned. But I highly recommend any DJI products. Their mics are great, their drones are great, their handheld stuff is really good. And I haven't even had a chance to try the more recent models of those out, but everything's user friendly.
Mhm.
It's extremely easy to pick up and go ahead and make content. One thing I'm looking at right now is just getting something that it's a camera that has a magnet on the back that you can just stick to a pole or whatever the case is and
Mhm.
cut a video. That's one thing I'm looking into right now, but I never went wrong with a DJI product. So I highly recommend anything that you do, definitely check out their products. And of course, you can go on YouTube and find a customized setup. Like if someone that's really into cameras and understands it and they want a good setup to be able to go out and shoot professionally at their job sites, you can find it on YouTube. don't stop learning. And that's another thing. If people sit there
Mhm.
and ask me all these questions on a day-to-day basis, and it's like I give them my individual answer, but also like these are questions that you can easily go on YouTube and get the answer. There's a wealth of knowledge on the internet with ChatGPT, all these editing, Hexfield AI, all these different editing apps that are available to you now. It's easier than ever to create content, and I think that's important to recognize. Like if you're going to get into the game, it's never been an easier time to do it. Like I remember figuring out Photoshop and Adobe Illustrate, and all these different things back in the day, just trying to get a carousel post up that represented the brand the right way. And I would spend 3 hours to make three photos to post in a night. And so it's gotten so much easier than what it used to be. And yeah, take advantage of that.
Okay. And what are the video editing apps and the copywriting apps that you use right now?
So I use Edits,
Uh,
Instagram's Edits, which is the editing app. I use that. It's pretty basic, straightforward app. It's super easy to edit on. And then also CapCut. CapCut's great. Personally, I would say that I'm using more the edits than I am CapCut in the immediate, just because I like the video quality and how well it transfers over to Instagram. And I'm just trying to get familiar with it now because I know Instagram's introducing a bunch of different things that you're going to be able to do with integrating AI into your videos, and
mhm.
it's coming down the pipeline for edits. So I'm trying to get used to editing in that app now, even though it's kind of foreign and different, and it took me a couple months to get used to it. I'm trying to get used to it now, so that way when they introduce these next level features that are in the pipeline, I'll be more familiar to go ahead and implement those different things into what I'm doing. But same thing with CapCut. CapCut's the same way. You just got to get familiar with sitting there and cutting up videos, and the first video you do will probably take you an hour and a half to 2 hours to get a decent product. The more you mess with it, the more you mess with the different features and understanding time control and how to speed things up and slow it down, the better you start to find your own style of editing that you can implement. And then when a new app comes out or something different, those same things,
Yes.
they're very similar and you can implement it and
You
still
can
be able
find
to
those
adapt.
options in the new apps as well if you are familiar with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
copywriting, when it comes to copywriting, I just use ChatGPT. That's the kind of my thought process on editing. At the end of the day, I keep it pretty basic, and the
Mhm.
more simpler it is for me to operate in, the less I'm going to dread doing it at the end of the day.
If you have to stick to just one platform for 2026, and that can either be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, just one platform and one format, like one type of content. It can be reels, carousels, texts, or anything, or pictures. What would you choose and why would you choose that format and that platform for 2026?
Videos and Instagram. I mean, I would go back and forth between Instagram or Facebook. But the thing about
Mhm.
Instagram is they're constantly updating their features, integrating new things, and it's just a lot of fun to create on Instagram compared to any other platform. Not hating on TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook, but it's the place to be. Now, the hardest part with Instagram is it's such a mature platform and you're competing against everyone. There's no individual Facebook groups or anything like that. So
Mhm.
every single piece of content you're posting competes with the algorithm altogether. You're competing against the rock and everyone who's posting that day. That's anyone. You're fighting for attention, and it's a lot harder. So I definitely recommend diversifying. But if I had to choose one, I would go with Instagram and then standard reels, videos as my format to post in.
Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. And I can sum up this interview by saying that if you want to be a content creator in roofing, first of all, you have to decide that if you want to attract the journalists or if you want to attract the content creators. The second thing that you have to do is focus on your messaging and your core values so you don't get distracted when something new or viral is introduced. The third thing is focus on your formats and try different kind of formats, group posting, text, videos, and experiment. The fourth thing is that do not worry about people and gadgets. You are perfect the way you are, and you will still attract the right people if you are giving the right message. And the last and final thing is that if you know something is working, and when you are scaling that content creation game, like you are hiring more people to delegate the stuff, just keep one thing in your mind: do not delegate the thing that made you who you are, and keep it to yourself, and delegate rest of the things. This will be the core of this conversation.
Yep. And most of all, have fun. Like it's
Yes,
your thing at the end of the day. Have fun, enjoy it, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to keep doing it. So find something that works for you. Don't take it too seriously. Have fun and develop yourself as a brand and keep moving forward.
perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. I hope people in the roofing industry get some value out of this conversation. It was a pleasure hosting you, and best of luck for your new house. Have an amazing year ahead, and yeah, have a great day.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye bye.